There was a woman who walked through life with invisible chains around her wrists. Not chains made of metal, but something far more binding, a rope woven from promises she made to herself long ago. Promises spoken in whispers when she was too young to understand their weight, when she believed that love required her to vanish, when she thought goodness meant making herself smaller so others could grow larger. Her name was Maya, and she had been carrying this rope for so long that she could no longer tell where it ended and where she began. The rope was made of words she'd spoken without knowing they would become her prison. I promise to always put others first. I promise to never let you down. I promise to be whoever you need me to be. She had said these things to her parents, believing it would earn their approval. To her teachers, hoping it would make her worthy. To her friends, thinking it would keep them close. To the men who claimed to love her, trusting it would make her lovable. Each promise became a thread, each thread twisted into the rope, and the rope pulled tighter with every passing year, until moving felt like resistance, until breathing felt like rebellion. Maya worked a job that drained the color from her days, because her father had told her it was the practical choice. She lived in a city that suffocated her spirit because her friends had built their lives there and leaving felt like abandonment. She stayed with a man who looked through her rather than at her because he needed her, and she had made a promise never to give up. But beneath the surface of all these choices, beneath the smile she wore like armor, Maya was slowly disappearing. Not all at once, not dramatically, but in the quiet way a photograph fades when left too long in the sun. One ordinary morning, Maya woke with a feeling she could no longer ignore. It wasn't quite pain. It wasn't quite panic. It was the suffocating sensation of a life that didn't belong to her. A tightness in her chest that whispered a truth she'd been drowning out for years. This isn't your life. This is someone else's cage, and you've been living in it. She stood before a bathroom mirror and saw a stranger staring back. Eyes that once held light now looked tired and resigned. A smile that once came easily now seemed painted on. She was looking at a woman who had become so skilled at being what everyone else needed that she had forgotten who she actually was. That day, she called in sick to work. She ignored the text from her boyfriend asking where she was. She let her mother's call go to voicemail. Instead, she got in her car and drove away from the familiar streets, away from the expectations, away from the noise of other people's needs, toward the mountains that rose like questions against the sky. She didn't have a destination. She just knew she needed to move toward something that felt like space, like silence, like the possibility of breathing without asking permission. The road climbed higher, winding through forests that grew denser with each mile. The air became thinner and clearer. When she finally stopped at an empty trailhead, she stepped out into a quiet so complete it felt like the world was holding its breath with her. The trail led her deeper into the forest, where the light filtered through leaves and golden fragments, and the only sounds were her footsteps and the wind moving through branches like whispers. She walked for an hour, then another, and with each step, something inside her began to shift. Something she'd been clenching tight began to loosen. The path opened into a clearing at the edge of a cliff. The valley below stretched out endlessly, mountains folding into mountains. Rivers threading through valleys. Sky so vast it made her chest ache with something that felt like longing mixed with grief. At the edge of the cliff sat an old woman with silver hair and eyes that seemed to hold the weight of many lifetimes. She didn't turn when Maya approached, but she spoke as if she'd been expecting her all along. "Come," she said simply. "Sit." Maya hesitated for only a moment before lowering herself beside the stranger. They sat in silence, watching the light shift across the valley, watching clouds cast moving shadows across the landscape below. The quiet between them felt companionable rather than awkward, as if they were both listening to the same unspoken question. Finally, the old woman spoke. "You're carrying something heavy." Maya's throat tightened. "How can you tell? I can see it in the way you hold yourself, the way you take up as little space as possible, as if existing to fully might be an imposition. The way you breathe shallow, careful, like you're afraid to take more than your share of air." She turned to look at Maya then, her eyes kind but unflinching. "What is it you're holding on to?" Maya's voice came out fractured. "Promises. Old ones, made so long ago I can barely remember making them. But I can't let them go because if I do, I'll hurt people. I'll disappoint them. They'll think I'm selfish. The old woman nodded slowly, as if this was a story she'd heard before, perhaps even lived herself. And so instead, you hurt yourself. Maya looked away, tears burning behind her eyes like small fires. The old woman reached into a worn bag beside her and pulled out a length of rope. It was frayed and weathered, clearly old. She held it up between them. "This is what you're carrying. Can you see it?" Maya stared at the rope, confused. "I don't understand." "The promises you made," the old woman explained, her voice quiet but clear, "were made by a version of you that no longer exists. A younger self who didn't yet know who she was or what she needed. A girl who thought love meant erasure, who believed that being good meant being invisible. But that girl is gone. You're not her anymore. Yet you're still living by her rules, still bound by her promises, still letting her make all your choices." She placed the rope in Maya's hands. "Fil Italiano." Maya's fingers closed around the rough fibers. It was heavier than it looked. Coarse-soled. The texture spoke of years of use, of being held too tightly for too long. "Those promises," the old woman continued, "were never meant to be eternal. They were spoken in specific moments, to specific people, in situations that no longer exist. But you've been treating them as if they're sacred vows, as if breaking them would make you a terrible person. But it wouldn't. It would make you human. It would make you honest. It would make you free." Maya shook her head. "But I can't just walk away. I can't abandon people who are counting on me. They need me." "Do they?" the old woman asked, her voice gentle but probing. "Or have you built your entire identity around being needed? Because if you're not needed, if you're not sacrificing yourself for someone else, then who are you? What's your purpose?" The question landed like a stone in still water, sending ripples through everything Maya had believed about herself. Her hands trembled around the rope. "This rope," the old woman said, "is a choice, not a sentence. You believe that if you let go, you'll fall, but the opposite is true. You'll rise, because what you're carrying isn't love, it's guilt, and guilt is the heaviest burden a human being can carry." She stood and walked to the cliff's edge where the land dropped away into emptiness, and the wind rose from the valley below. "Come here." Maya stood on unsteady legs and joined her at the precipice. The old woman pointed down into the vast space below. "Throw it."
"What?"
"Throw it. Throw it. Over the edge. Let it go." Maya looked at the rope in her hands, then at the dizzying drop below. "I can't." "Why not?" "Because ... Double quotes, her voice cracked open. "Because if I let go, I'll be alone. They'll leave me. They'll hate me. They'll say I'm selfish, that I'm cruel, that I abandon them." The old woman turned to face her fully. "And what do you say when you look at yourself in the mirror at 3 in the morning? When you lie awake, knowing your life is slipping away? When your heart whispers the truth, you're too afraid to speak out loud? What do you say?" Maya's tears came then, hot and real and long overdue. "I say I'm dying. I say I'm drowning. I say I can't survive this anymore." "Then don't." But the promises were made to survive, not to live, and there's a vast difference between the two. The old woman's voice carried both softness and steel. "You don't owe anyone your life. Not your parents, not your partner, not your friends. You don't owe anyone your happiness, your dreams, your peace. You owe them honesty and respect and kindness, but not your soul. Never your soul." She placed a weathered hand on Maya's shoulder. "This rope, you're holding it. Not keeping you connected to the people you love. It's keeping you trapped in a version of yourself that no longer exists. And yes, when you cut it, some people will be angry. Some will walk away. Some will call you selfish. But the ones who truly love you, the ones who see you as a whole person rather than a function they need you to perform, they'll understand. They'll stay, and the space left by the ones who don't, that's where your real life begins." Maya looked at the rope, at the valley spreading out below, at the infinite sky above, and then she threw it. The rope tumbled through the air, spinning and falling, disappearing into the wind in the distance, and Maya gasped not from fear, but from the shocking sensation of relief, from the sudden, overwhelming lightness of empty hands, from freedom she had forgotten existed. The old woman smiled. Now you know. You didn't fall. You learned to fly. Maya drove home that night with the windows down and the wind in her hair, feeling lighter than she had in years. The next morning, she began making different choices. She quit the job that had been slowly killing her spirit. She ended the relationship that required her to be small. She moved to a place where breathing felt natural instead of rebellious. And yes, people were angry. Yes, some relationships ended. Yes, she was called selfish by those who had benefited from her self-betrayal. But she was also alive, fully, completely, devastatingly alive for the first time in years. Because here is the truth that no one tells you when you were young and making promises you do understand. The promises you made when you were broken do not have to bind you forever. The vows you spoke from a place of fear don't define who you are now. The rope you've been carrying, the one woven from guilt and duty and outdated versions of yourself, you are allowed to cut it. Not because you're cruel, but because you're brave. Not because you don't care about others, but because you've finally learned to care about yourself, about your life, about the person you're meant to become rather than the person you were told to be. Letting go isn't betrayal. It's honesty. It's growth. It's the moment you stop living for the ghosts of who you used to be and start living for the person you're re-becoming. So cut the rope. Watch it fall away into the space below, and then feel yourself rise higher than you ever thought possible. The weight you've been carrying wasn't keeping you grounded. It was keeping you from flying. And you were always meant to fly.